Hey there, I am Game Master Flash, a professional game master, among other things, but you can call me Aaron, and I am here to walk you through the making of a character for the Icons superhero role-playing game. Icons is a superhero RPG written by Steve Kenson of Mutants and Masterminds fame, probably among other things. I like to describe Icons as if Mutants and Masterminds and Fate had a baby. And I think it's important to maybe note also that the old TSR Marvel phase rip system is like the collective smiling grandparent in the background. I don't think there's too much to discuss about it. You can check out Icons on your own, but I think that we should probably just get straight to it. So I will pull up a handy dandy quick hero creation sheet. We are going to start by rolling up the origin of our character. Then we will use this level determination table to determine the level of our attributes. Our attributes are just similar to any role-playing game, whether you call them abilities or attributes or, whatever. There's essentially 3 physical abilities. There's 3 mental abilities. They're a little bit unique in Icons because I think they really focus on what's important for the superhero genre and not trying to necessarily get the classic 6 D&D abilities or attributes. After that, we are going to roll for the amount of powers that we get, and then we roll on various tables to determine the specific powers that we get. And that goes on for some time. Then we'll roll for specialties, which I'll be able to explain better later, but they're essentially little plus something boosts to your dice rolls in certain circumstances. And then we crunch a couple little numbers from what we rolled, and some other little interesting things that I think are very this system shares in common with Fate. And then we will end up with a great character. It's going to require a little bit of brain power because instead of just leaving us with a random and disparate seeming sort of character, they actually have a really cool, very liberal education for what you can swap out and how you can customize the character from what you've rolled up randomly. And so I think the best way to do it is just to get into it. So why don't we start by rolling this character's origin. Let us roll our 2d6. This game pretty much relies on 2d6. You use 2d6 to roll up the stuff for your character, and then when you're actually playing, you generally use 2d6. The hero has a d6, and the GM or the adversary has a d6, and you both roll against each other and add whatever the appropriate attribute or power or whatever it is that's going to boost your die roll, and you compare them. That's pretty much how it works. So let's start. We are going to roll for our origin. We got a 5, and that's going to give us an origin of transformed. The hero was not a normal human, but became superhuman through some outside agency, often an accident or experiment. One of the character's abilities, and then in parentheses attribute or power, your choice, is increased by +2 to a maximum of 10. So I am going to go ahead and just bibbidi-boo. We're going to copy that into our character sheet down here where it says origins/notes. And then I will shorten that later and come in and once we've rolled up our character, we can figure out what we would like to increase by +2. But it should be noted that our character concept, the origin, should be transformed. This is like a this is like a Spider-Man or Hulk kind of origin. You know, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think of a DC character that's off the top of my head that is transformed. I don't know, maybe Captain Atom. So after we get our origin, we are going to roll for the 6 attributes. So I guess the handy thing to do would be to have this level determination table here, and I'm just going to generate 6 scores. I will jot them down, and then we can fill them in on our character sheet. So what are we going to get? We got a 10 to start, and we are rolling these in order, by the way. You'll see when we get to the character sheet, but these will be in order of how the attributes appear on the character sheet. We got a 10, we got a 6, we got a 2. All right, well, that's definitely going to mean something, you know, a severe below average lack of something when we go to create our character's concept. We got a 4, 2 more to go with a 9 and a 7. All right, well, I think that's a pretty good spread there, but let's take it over to the character sheet so that you can all make sense of what the heck I'm talking about. These are our abilities right here. They are additionally in the book, they have a numeric value, but they are also ranked in a corresponding adjective that describes, you know, how impressive they are. So you'll see everything on here kind of starts as a 3, which is considered the adult human average. So our prowess, we are looking at, we rolled a 10 for our prowess. So we look on that level determination sheet, we see that with a 10, our score for prowess is going to be 6, which is great. Excellent. 6 is actually the highest human. It's a Batman-like level. Basically 7 in anything of these abilities is considered superhuman. So 6 would be the highest in whatever ability or attribute that you can have while still being a human character. If you were designing a Batman-like character and you had a 7 or higher in something, that would have to be explained away with some sort of gadget or something like that. Okay, so for coordination, we rolled a 6, which is going to give us a 4. So a 4 in coordination. Coordination is generally dexterity in other role-playing game systems. It's your ability to dodge ranged attacks. You're sort of like your nimble, sneaky type things, and of course your ability to make ranged attacks. Strength. Oh, here we go. We rolled a 2. That was our 2 that we rolled for strength. So we are going to have a 1 in strength. And you'll see later how we can kind of play around with that. Yeah, that's weak. That is weak. And our intellect, we rolled a 4. So that's going to give us a 3. That's human average. We don't even need to change that. And we rolled a 9 for awareness as our next attribute. And so that's going to give us an awareness of 6, which is great. And then we rolled a 7 for our willpower. A 7 is going to give us a willpower score 5, which is good. You know, that's 2 steps above average is good. So phase 3, we're rolling for how many powers we get. How many powers will we get? Let's see. Oh, all right, that's not great, but I know that at the lowest, you know, you get at least 2. And so we will come over here and see. We roll a 4, so yeah, we get 2 powers. 2 powers. All right, so now we are going to roll for what powers we get. I'm going to note to myself that we get 2 powers. So let's roll for each. Let's roll for each one, and we're also going to. You'll see we're going to roll for the level that we have in that power. So someone could roll up the same power but be weaker, so to speak, with their ability to control that power, or the level of damage that it delivers, whatever. We are going to roll on this the power type table right here, and that is going to tell us the power type that we get. And then we will go down, actually I'm going to be using an expansion book for the powers. So we'll roll for the power type. We will go to the book and roll on the corresponding table for whatever power type it is. So we have mental, we have control powers, defensive powers, offensive powers, movement powers, alteration powers, and sensory powers. We rolled a 7, which is going to give us an offensive power. And then I will kick it over here to the Great Powers rulebook. It's a very cool expansion for icons. It is essentially just an much expanded version of the Powers chapter in the Icons Assembled Edition, the core rulebook, but it does have a lot more information, differentiate some powers in a way that makes more sense, and all of the errata that would have been updated between the core book and the publication of this book is updated in here. So what seems like repeat information might actually be up-to-date, clarified information. So offensive powers. All right, so we're gonna roll. So what we do here on these tables is we roll 2d6, and we determine which one is the first and second die of each of those. And so the first die will, give us a grouping of powers, and the second die will tell us which power under that grouping we get. What our ultimate, where we land with what power it is. So for offensive powers, we will roll, and you can't see it on screen, but I do have my little information bar over here. So my first die was a 3, and my second die was a 4. So first die is a 3. We look in this grouping, and the second die was a 4. So we get the blast power, a pretty standard superhero blast. Why don't we go and check out what blast says in the actual book here. Blast, offensive. You can project a damaging blast at extended range. Choose the effect of your blast and pure force, from pure force to an element or energy, and whether it is a blasting or shooting attack when you get this power. Ooh, that's an important difference. Blasting or shooting attacks differentiate certain type of damage. So blasting is essentially, if you get hit with it in a devastating sort of hit, you will be knocked out from blasting, but you could potentially die from shooting. So that represents like real ballistics, the same way that a superhuman earthquake punch for melee versus someone with a adamantium sword might differentiate between comic book superhero knocked out damage and getting killed, because it's kind of hard to imagine the description of someone getting impaled with a sword and then being like, I'm glad I'm all healed up from that sword impalement. Anyways, when you get this power, the blast inflicts damage equal to its level. And then you can add extras and limits, which we will go over later. So why don't we just determine what our level in blast is. Oh, that's pretty good. A 9? A 9 means our level in blast is a 6. So we've got a blast 6. Let's go over to our character sheet here. Forgive me if you hear some typey noises. the clickety clack of the keyboard. Blast 6. So that's our first power. And our second power is going to be, we roll on the powers table. Okay, we got a 10. That means that we are going to end up with a alteration power. Okay, this is where it starts to get interesting. It seems disparate, but we will be able to trim this down and make it what we want at the end. So we'll roll on the alteration powers table. Make this bigger for you. Alteration powers. Rolling some dice to get those alteration powers. Okay, so first die is a 1. Second die is a 2. A 1 and a 2. Ability increase. And you'll see here that it differentiates that it lets you know that there's a group. You see the group in parentheses there. That means that if you read the character or the powers description, it will give you it'll give you a more specific something that you have to choose from. So we'll take a look right now. Ability increase. We don't have to go too far down the table of contents to find ability increase. It's literally the first power. All right. This power permanently increases one of the character's abilities, an attribute or power, to the rolled level or by +2 to a maximum of 10, whichever is greater. It does not count towards determination, but an increased attribute may do so if it is 7 or greater. Select an ability or roll on the following table. Oh, should we roll on the following table or should we just put it into strength? Man, I am really tempted. I mean, we can jot this down, obviously. Roll for its level. A 6, which would put it at level 4. So whatever we assign it to, if we assign it to something that is lower than level 4, it will become level 4. If we assign it to an ability or power that is higher than level 4, it'll increase that that ability by +2. So I'm kind of very tempted to, you know what, we can just note 4 there, and we can figure it out later. Very tempted to put that into strength and maybe switch some things around later, but we'll see. Okay, so we rolled for our powers. We got our powers. Now it's time to figure out what are our specialties. Normally by this point, I have an idea of what type of character I am going to create because it really starts to form itself pretty well by this point. I'm not entirely sure right now because I'm partially distracted by helping walk you through this process. But why don't we roll for specialties? So we roll for the amount of specialties we get, and then you have the option of either picking the specialties that you want or rolling randomly for them on a table. I'm going to say that we're going to roll for them, but you know what? If we don't like any of our specialties, I'm going to say that we'll just throw them out. As long as we have the same amount as what we rolled, the specifics shouldn't matter so much. So the amount of specialties we get, we rolled an 8. That means that we are going to get 3 specialties. And so let's roll on the specialties table in the core book, the Icons Assembled Edition. We roll, with a first die and second die, same as we do for the powers. So let's roll for our first one and just see. All right, we've got 4 followed by 2, and that's going to make our first one performance. I know for a fact, having read this, that performance, when you take this specialty, it is much like how a power would tell you if it's a part of a group. You would pick a specific type of performance, whether it's dance or playing musical instruments or a musical instrument, or acting, something like that. You would pick a specific specialty under the larger blanket specialty of performance. So let's see what else we roll. We got a 6 followed by a 3, which is going to give us underwater combat. Okay, gang. Well, we've got, this could be really cool. I didn't even think about making, some sort of underwater combatant, but we may trash that. We may keep it. I don't know. Let's get weird with it, right? Rolling again. We've got a 1 followed by a 4. So a 1 followed by a 4 gives us, athletics. Yes, that is a something. Add your specialty bonus to test for athletic actions like acrobatics, climbing, jumping, running, swimming, and similar activities, including dodging, but not parrying, in combat. This generally includes riding mounts, unless the GM wants a separate riding specialty in the game. Okay. And then what else do we have? We had performance. This specialty group involves the performing arts, acting, comedy, dancing, music, singing, and so forth. Choose an art form and apply your specialty bonus to test involving it. See performing in the taking action chapter for details. Well, we're not going to go that far into it, but you get the idea. It could be a stand-up comic, could be a musician, a singer, and so forth. And then underwater combat. Don't even feel like I need to necessarily read this one, but you're skilled at fighting underwater. Well, no duh. This specialty adds its bonus to your defensive combat test while submerged. It is primarily useful to aquatic characters. Sea powers. Alright, well, we might be dumping that one. But what else is on? What's next on our list? Specialties? Stamina. Oh, that's just a static thing that we add together. Stamina is basically like your hit points. You add together your strength and your willpower levels to determine your stamina. It's quite simple. Combat in this game is generally fast and effective and mimics comic books in a very accurate, fun way that I really enjoy. Then qualities. Qualities is pretty much directly derived from fate. Choose 3 qualities that describe your hero. Consider questions like, who are you? What drives you? What do you do? What do you say? What is distinctive about you? What gets you in trouble? Qualities, if you're familiar with fate at all, it's very similar. It's creating, one of them. I like to use a high concept, for my qualities. Like if you were to have Spider-Man and you were designing Spider-Man and you were to come up with qualities for him, you might have, I guess I would combine 2 of his taglines and make like, not friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but maybe like friendly neighborhood web slinger or something like that. Probably another quality would be teenage scientist or something. And another quality might be guilt-ridden and subservient to deceased uncle and elderly aunt. Or, that's maybe a little long-winded for a one-sentence quality, but you get the idea, I hope. So why don't we crack down on this character? We've spent enough time, rolling everything up. We've got this very simple thing that I think that we can work with. So this hero is transformed. It's got, the powers that we have to choose from that we can, to tool around with quite a bit is blast and ability increase, which we still have to figure out. So I wonder if we can't, I feel like aquatic is really something unique. Yeah, so aquatic characters, that's its own specialty superpower. You are equally suited to functioning underwater and on land, can breathe water, and your coordination and awareness while submerged equal the higher of their, well, that's all just mechanical stuff. I wonder if this character maybe just to keep and play into the to play in the underwater combat thing, and the fact that it has blast. But what if this character, very cheesy, was is not definitely not an A-list character. And nothing aside from the blast is especially tremendously superhuman. This is obviously something more of a Cyclops from the X-Men level of character. Maybe Cyclops, especially not super early in their career, but somewhere in the mid-range, around when all new X-Men or giant size X-Men, around there. Because they do have some peak human physical abilities. But nothing terribly superhuman. And why don't we use that ability increase just to let's just bring the strength up to a 4. Because I just kind of, if we had a Hulk type character where we could drop the intelligence, or a blind character, I don't know that we could drop the awareness and then make up for it with something else. That'd be one thing. But this seems like we've been handed a more well-rounded character with a very simple superpower, and then it's up to us to really breathe life into it, give it a lot of flavor. That's something that's going to be done in the backstory of the character, the concept of the character, and to be done at the table to make a character like this really interesting. So do we want to switch any of these things? I was thinking, what if we had a character that was let's put our specialties in here. Each of these is going to add a +1 to dice rolls, to any dice roll, essentially, where it applies to an ability, or I'd say rarely, but sometimes a superpower. Let's think about this. I think, what if we had a character that was transformed? Oh God, no! This is going to steal an uncomfortable amount from the bad Amazing Spider-Man movie. Yes, I did like the first Amazing Spider-Man. I'm sorry. But the second one, ugh. So I know that they screwed with Electro's background there, his origin, and made this whole thing where he gets, caught up by electric eels or something. But what if we did that and it was a little bit cooler? What if we had some sort of accident with like irradiated eels? So this blast, we could note, is electricity. And do we want to switch anything? I feel like this character, could have, I feel like we could switch the awareness for either strength or coordination and really make this a physically focused character with a lot of heart, because we've got above average willpower. But maybe make his intellect and his awareness around average, slightly above average. So I don't know. Should it be strength or coordination? Coordination is agility, accuracy, hand-eye coordination, speed, and grace. Strength is muscle power, stamina, and overall physical fitness. Well, if this is an electric eel character, why don't we make the electric eel character have a high coordination and a high prowess? So we're going to move this coordination up to a 6. We're going to move the awareness down to the 4 that was previously in coordination. And I think that we're good to go there. You'll see on this particular character sheet, our stamina right here is already updated because it's a combination of our willpower and our strength. And then do we want to put any limits on his blast and ability increase? Well, let's see if we can, if there's any suggestions in the book. especially with ability increase, we might be able to tack on some sort of... So by getting limits on a power, by giving yourself a limit, you're essentially giving yourself the ability to make that power cheaper, if we're looking at it from a sort of point build system or some sort of like trading one for one kind of system. So giving yourself a limit will allow you to give yourself an extra, or boost the power to maybe be stronger than it normally would. During character creation, you can also completely get rid of a power. So if we had decided we didn't want this ability increase, we could either make our blast stronger, or we could get an extra to the blast for free. But we did decide to keep that ability increase because it just kind of made for a better character, in my opinion. So the limits, some of the limits that they offer: animals only, your power only affects animals. Blocked by X, which was a suggestion. Your power does not affect some common type of object or substance, such as wood, aluminum, or things colored blue, for example. Two of those are Green Lantern nods from different eras. Burnout. After you use your power, roll a die. On a roll of 1 or 2, the power stops working for the rest of the chapter. Burnout could be a cool one. We could give ourselves burnout, though that does seem risky, but I like risky. And also we have a character that's still very coordinated and fights. I mean, this character was affected not only by given electrical blast and a slight edge in the water, even if it didn't maybe physically transform him to have gills and be full-on aquatic, definitely gave him him or her an instinct to be able to hold their own in the water, even if it's not their native environment. We could that their coordination and their prowess was boosted because eels can be very both lethal and aggressive, but also they're quick and slippery creatures, so makes sense for the boosted prowess and boosted coordination. That is like at peak human level, Batman level essentially. What kind of extra might we get if we were to give that electrical charge burnout? Like it's a battery that might run out, when it's not necessarily convenient, though it might prove to be narratively convenient in various circumstances. I really like stuff like that, not just as a GM, but as a player. I live for that stuff. Extras. Affects others. Okay, that's more of like for support powers and or in powers that aren't strictly offensive. Obviously it affects others because you don't often just go around shooting yourself in the foot. Broadcast, no. Contagious. The effect of your power is contagious and may affect someone else who comes into contact with a target while the power is still in effect. Examples include contagious afflictions, sticky bindings, or spreading acid or fire blast. Okay, well, not necessarily for us. Defensive. You can use your power to defend against an attack as a reaction, rolling the power's level to set the difficulty of the attack. Ooh, that'd be cool. I'd really like the idea of him like deflecting things with electricity blasts. But I feel like we can do something different because he's already got a really equally good prowess and coordination, which is going to be where the dodging and the blocking comes in. Effect. The power can duplicate the effect of another power at its level. This is one that gets used pretty often. It's where you kind of like, oh yeah, I have this ability, but I want to become, you want to add on to it. You want to have the whole Human Torch thing. So the Human Torch becomes fire. He blasts fire. He lets out a burst fire in an area expanding out from him. He's got all those things. This is the extra that you would tack on, a very commonly used extra, and one that you tack on to encompass many comic book superheroes. Having a burst makes sense. Let's just give it burst. I mean, I know it's super obvious, but you know, this seems like just seems like we happen to roll up kind of a straightforward character. The fact that he's eel-like makes him interesting. Limit, oh yeah, what was the name of that limit that we chose? Because I really did think that limit was pretty cool. Burnout. After you use your powers, on a roll of 1 or 2, the power doesn't function for that chapter. That's great. So let's put that in. Oh yeah, and we still have our transformed background, where an attribute or power is increased by +2 to a maximum of 10. Well then, what shall we do? Shall we make that strength? No, too easy. Should we just make the electricity super duper strong? Oh, if there was some way to make that aquatic, you know? I was just thinking, what if the person had some sort of disability where, like a physical disability, where their strength had been 1 and the accident caused them to gain strength in addition to, you know, the other ability increases that you see here. But we could also say that a part of that ability increase that transformed this person gave them aquatic abilities. Yes, I'm definitely going to do that. So what we can do here, let's just take away that whole burst extra. You know what? Character can't do bursts. Not going to do it. It is going to keep the limit of burnout. It's going to increase its blast by 8, or sorry, to 8, to a maximum of 8. And then we are going to, because we didn't take that extra, but we have a limit that gives us essentially a 1-for-1 trade, we're going to add an extra, which is the go under extras, just so I know I have the wording exactly correct to the book. Extra effect, your power can duplicate the effect of another power at its level. This extra is normally listed as the name of a duplicated power, such as flight or blast. If it can also duplicate extras of that power, they can be listed along with it. Each requires another extra. Essentially, extras of the duplicated power become potential extras of the base power. We're gonna lump in, along with that ability increase that healed this person's previous paralysis. I don't know, should we say it was like a muscular dystrophy? We don't have to get dark and try to name, you know, like I've worked for people with very severe physical disabilities, and we don't have to go too deep with it. We can say that this person was afflicted with this, but had some performance career. Oh man, what if it was someone who was essentially paralyzed, you know, essentially quadriplegic because of a muscular disorder that affected them, but they were a stand-up comedian. And then they were in this situation, you know, at sea or in a laboratory, whatever, where these irradiated or genetically enhanced eels took hold and gave them this gift, this curse. I like this more and more. So ability increase 4, and then extra effect is we don't have to list effect. We can just say aquatic, and they get the aquatic power. I totally dig that. We've got a great character. Now we can absolutely give this character some qualities. So, what is this character's name? Let's not overthink it. Let's look up eel. Let's just cheat and Google some eel-related eel synonyms. Moray, which is one that came to me. think that something like, a color or an adjective, the something more. So why don't we just do the more? We can come back to that. If anyone's got some cool name suggestions, comments. Yeah. Okay, so qualities. The eels, something about eels and striking. And because you're going to draw on these qualities in the game to spend points like fate points or bennies from Savage Worlds, very similar. You can spend them to correct dice rolls that you don't like, or really even just take full control of the narrative for one important point. You can retcon something. You can I don't know. It gives you a lot more freedom. This is a game that's more about the storytelling and not about. This has nothing. Not a good game for people who like tactical combat. I like tactical combat when I'm playing that game, but when I'm playing a role-playing game at the table, I like to tell stories. So, qualities for the moray. Slippery as an eel, and twice as shocking. Slippery as an eel and twice as shocking. Or something about, I like this idea of having a bit of an inadequacy, a mental problem, something, feeling an inferiority complex because they won't ever truly be able to shake that they'd had this illness that affected them their entire life. I was previously disabled, and no, my previous disability stays with me. That's it. And then what about something really, I don't know, just something fun, something cool. What about being a comedian? I like this. This time I'm laughing at you. So basically, you use these to invoke all sorts of narrative control, anything. If I was playing the game and I screwed up a dice roll or something, like trying to dodge an attack, I should have gotten it, but I rolled a 1, and this person just lucked out on the dice or had a really powerful attack, and we were kind of evenly matched, but I rolled a 1. I could say, well, because I'm slippery as an eel and twice as shocking, I'm gonna re-roll that and then take whatever I needed, to possibly avoid the attack. I could say, I don't know. Obviously the GM could invoke trouble for me, something that works against me, because they can play off of any of these things, but especially the whole my previous disability stays with me. Also, I kind of like the idea of this person being a female. We'll have to figure it out. Maybe if I keep this character around, we can fine tune it a little more. But I've got everything that I need here to really start playing, to start rolling forward with this character. Oh, the last thing I didn't tell you is determination. It's very simple. This determines how many determination points you get when you start each game session, each issue with. And all you do is you start with the number 6 and you subtract any superpowers. So extras, unless they are canceled out by a limitation, count as an additional superpower. So in this case, the limit and the extra, so the extra and the limit cancel each other out. So we have 2 powers. And then any attribute or ability, whatever you want to call it, above that is 7 or higher, counts as a superpower for this part of it, for determining determination. But we don't have any over 7, so this character is going to, start with 6, subtract 2. It's going to start every session with 4 determination points. So maybe a more powerful character, had we rolled up a more generally more stuff, more powers, higher attributes, Yeah, maybe they would have that stuff, but they wouldn't start with as many awesome points that they get to spend to really control the narrative and control their own destiny at the table. That completes the character creation, aside from drawing a picture of a superhero that fits your character. That's all the stuff you need to get started. I hope this has been entertaining. I hope I haven't lingered on for too long and bored the crap out of you. We're going to be starting a short campaign that is an actual play with some pretty entertaining people and myself at the head chair GMing. So look forward to that. And I'm not really sure if we're only going to record that and drop it on YouTube or if we want to stream it live. So maybe if you're watching this because you're interested in icons or whatever, however you found this, maybe you can drop a comment below and let me know if it is worth it to you to show up a certain place at a certain time and, I don't know, watch us as we do it live as opposed to watching it as it's been recorded and watch it in sequence. Yeah, just let me know. I am Game Master Flash. You can find me on the Instas at Game Master Flash. And you can look me up on Start Playing Games or startplaying.games. But yeah, you can find me on all those things. I'm Game Master Flash, and that's it for now. So thank you very much, and have a great night.